Welcome to the Sport Exchange with me, John Robbie. Hi guys, welcome to the Sport Exchange podcast where we meet sporting personalities and learn about their lives and their life stories. Welcome back to the Sport Exchange podcast series. This is season 3 now, and today we meet the champ. He defended the World Junior Lightweight crown for a record 12 times, and every defence was overseas. He's been in the Joburg Panto, he's done a one-man show, and of course he's still the only boxer, South African boxer, in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. Of course, it's the champ, Brian Mitchell. Hi champ, thanks for coming to talk to us.
Thanks Johnny. I must tell you something that you don't even know. For the last 30 years, I've been a fan of yours. From 702 Radio, from Transvaal Rugby, that is my favourite side. I was born in Troyville, just up the road from Transvaal Rugby, from Ellis Park at least, and I started boxing at Ellis Park. So I followed your whole career from Transvaal to playing for the Springboks, and you were great on radio.
Thank you very much, Brian. That's lovely. Tell us about the Panto, because I'm training in the Panto. Janice Honeyman sends her love, and she's got wonderful memories. You did it for a year as well.
That's a tough lady, that.
Yeah.
I did it, absolutely. It was 3 months, as you know now. It's a month rehearsal, the whole of October, and then for 2 months you're on stage for many shows. And it's very hard work, John. What people don't understand about it is your energy level has got to be up and down all the time, obviously. So you go to the change room and then you come out in a different costume and a different scene, and you got to be up. There's 1,000 people looking at you, and you can't make mistakes because you're live. It's not like even the podcast we're doing now, we can edit it or whatever.
Yeah.
This is live, and so you got to do what you got to do. And the funny thing for me was that I had that comedian.
Mark Lottering.
Mark Lottering, yes.
Yeah.
Toby Crinier was great, but he was getting old. He was forgetting his words.
Yeah.
And I had to feed off his words. But Mark Lottering and myself were enemies in the play. He was the villain, the bad guy, and I was the good guy. So we both owned our own circuses. And he forgot his words every day, but he could because he's a comedian. So now I'm waiting for this guy to say something, Mark Lottering, and he says different things.
Yeah.
And you're live on stage. So it's not to scare you, but it's flippin' difficult, I can tell you.
Can I tell Janice Honeyman you are one of her toughest opponents?
I'll tell Janice Honeyman I love her, and thank you for what she taught me 12 years ago on stage, and I'll do it anytime again.
Fantastic. And of course, this one-man show you had was incredible with Tim Plumman. Tell us about that. You saw the one Mike Tyson did, is that right?
Yeah, I watched Mike Tyson, and funny enough, a lot of people think that Mike Tyson is like a doff ex-boxer or something. A lot of people think boxers are doff. It's not just about getting in the ring, two guys getting in the ring and punching each other. To be a world champion and to be a great boxer, a good boxer, you got to think. You got to get in there and you got to know what you're doing. Mike Tyson was a great heavyweight, the youngest world heavyweight champion ever at 20. And then he decided to do a stage play. And I don't know how long they took to teach him, maybe a long time, because of his lisp and all that. But he did very well. I thought he was excellent on stage. And then I saw Tim Plumman in Defending the Caveman, and I went to Tim and I said, come on, can we do something like this? And Tim, I had breakfast with him, and he said, not really. He said, you can't just do a one-man play because you're a commentator and an ex-boxer and a guest speaker and whatever you do. He said a one-man play is very, very hard. So Tim Plumman himself, when he first went on stage, he wasn't doing a one-man play.
Of course not, yeah.
But then Tim bought into it, and as we sat for a year writing my script, writing my story, it was like rewriting my book, which Rodney Hartman did in 1991. And I learned a lot from Tim Plumman and his wife, Kathy. Then I went into rehearsals for about 6 weeks, and I was drilled from every angle.
Wow.
I lost 10 kilograms, and I loved it, but it was flipping hard work.
What was the first...
This was last year. I was 56 years old.
What was the first moment like when the lights went on and you were there on your own?
Scary. It was more nerve-wracking for me actually than getting into a world title fight. And I'll tell you why. Because when you get into a world title fight, well, firstly, you're 25 years old or 28 years old, and you pump for it. You get into that ring all pumped up and you're ready to go like a racehorse to coming out the stable, But on a stage play, you come on there, you look at all these people, and you're not really pumped up. You got to go. Yeah. And the hardest thing about it is I spent an hour and 10 minutes on stage alone, obviously with different cast members. But it was brilliant. I'm glad that I've actually achieved that in my life, and I learned a lot from Tim Plumman.
You seem very content at the moment, are you?
Yeah, I'm very content. I'm engaged to Charlene Paisley, a lovely lady, for the last 3 years.
Fantastic.
Divorced twice, unfortunately. These things happen to us in life. I've got 4 beautiful children from my 2 ex-wives, and they're great mothers. My son Brian is 31. I've got Nathan's 29. My daughter Candice is 27. And then my 17-year-old son from my second wife.
Baby.
The baby, yeah. He was 17 on Thursday. The same day that I beat Alfreda Lane on the 26th of September 1986. He was just born 15 years later.
Do you look back like I do, and almost in disbelief at your career? You know, British and Irish Lions, I was in the and I look back and I say, but that's not me. You know, like you look. Do you almost look back what you've achieved and almost say, how did I do that?
Yeah, I actually do, John. Obviously, I'm very proud of what I did, you know, and I still, every day, people recognize me and shake my hands and ask me for autographs at 57 years old. It makes me feel good. And if I look back at my career, it's hard to imagine that I even achieved all that. You know, I wanted to beat Vicky Tauwell's record of 3 defenses of the world title. And then I'd beaten Vicky Tauwell's record of 3 defenses. I'd had 4 defenses. And I said to Carlos Giacomo at the time, I was about 27, I think I must get out the game. You know, I don't want to be punchy or anything like that. I've got R1 million in the bank. I'm getting out. And Carlos Giacomo and all my other promoters and advisors said, "Are you crazy? This is in the height of your career." And then I said, "Okay, that was after 4 defenses." And I just went on and went on and went on. And eventually I ended up having 14 world title fights. And right at the end of my career, at 30 years old, I beat Tony Lopez, who was a 4-time world champion as well. And if I look back at my career, so I'm very proud. It was a great journey. I managed to the great Nelson Mandela flew me to Cape Town to meet me. Nelson Mandela wanted to meet me. It doesn't get bigger than that. Myself and Stan Christodoulou. And then in 2009, 18 years after I'd beaten Tony Lopez, I got a call from America. I thought it's Leon Schuster or some candid camera. I thought somebody's stuffing me around, you know. 18 years after I'd beaten Tony Lopez, I got a call from the International Boxing Hall of Fame that they wanted to induct me, and I was inducted.
Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? Tell us what actually happens. They fly you to where?
Yeah, they fly you to Canastota, which is in New York. You know, New York's massive. I mean, we drove from Manhattan to Canastota. It's a 6-hour drive. We were still in New York. Anyway, it's in Canastota, and there's a boxing museum, and there's the World Boxing Hall of Fame as well, which I've also been inducted into. But they don't have a museum. So the International Boxing Hall of Fame is the big one. So they fly you over, and it's a 4-day occasion. And then you start off by the first day, you got bodyguards there because the people are fanatical. You got bodyguards take you around, you sign autographs for 2 hours, and then you go do a boxing exhibition and a boxing chat. And then there's evening functions. But you hang with the best of the best. I was with Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, all the super.
And they all knew you. I mean, you're in that league,
They did. The nice thing was that Mike Tyson was inducted in 2011, and I've only been twice. I went in 2009 because obviously I live in South Africa, which is quite far. So I was inducted in 2009. In 2011, I decided I got to go again because Mike Tyson's being inducted, and Mike Tyson, myself, obviously I go on stage with all the guys because I've got the ring like them. We go backstage and we chat. And Mike Tyson knew all about my career, which was wonderful for me. Because I'm talking to this legendary heavyweight and he knows all about me. We won the world title the exact same year. I won the world title in September of 86.
Yes.
And he won it in November of 86. So we were around the same time. He's just 5 years younger than me. So today myself and Mike Tyson are good friends. Sugar Ray Leonard, I'm good friends with Leonard. And yes, I got to meet the big boys. You know, I'm on the Hall of Fame with Sugar Ray Robinson and Muhammad Ali. And
I got absolute goose. It's not bad for a kid from Troyville, eh?
Not bad for a little boy from Troyville that grew up in Malvern.
Do you remember your fights? I remember talking to Gary Player once, and he remembers every shot of every round he's ever played in a tournament. And I said to him, "You won I think it was the British Open in 1961. He said, "I drove off, I pushed it a bit left," and so on. I mean, the Alfredo Lane fight, do you remember it?
I do remember almost every punch. Gary Player is just a super genius. Gary Player is my sporting hero.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. I mean, often they look at me as one of the greatest sportsmen from this country, but I would say Gary Player is number one. He just stands head and shoulders above everybody. And yes, to answer your question, I do. I remember the knockouts. I remember the
But
punches.
talk us through the fight, because Alfredo Lane was a hell of a fighter. People forget now. It's a bit like the election in 94. We get this warm, fuzzy feeling. A lot of people thought there was going to be violence, bombs, a civil war, chaos. It didn't happen. People forget you were a huge underdog against Alfredo Lane.
Yeah, I was.
But you were confident.
Yeah, I was very confident. I was a South African champion, undefeated as a South African champion. But Alfredo Lane had just knocked out Wilfredo Gomez, who was a 3-time world champion. And Gomez was legendary. And so Lane wasn't supposed to win. And I wasn't supposed to beat Lane. But we're in the height of apartheid. And the sanctions were on the country.
Yeah.
So today I still don't understand. Saul Kersner was still married to Annalene Creel at the time.
Yeah.
And they promoted the fight. And Russell McMillan was their promoter. But Saul Kersner got Alfredo Lane here, paid him $125,000 in 1986. Which was huge money. The only way you could get him here.
Yeah.
And I wasn't supposed to win. The international media, the South African media said, well, he's a good South African champion, Mitchell, but he's bitten off more than he can chew. And I went into that ring and I said, there is no way I'm going to lose. I'm going to put my life on the line. I spent 10 years as an amateur boxer. I've now been a pro for 5 years. And I'm putting everything on the line. I'm leaving that ring with a world title belt.
Tell us about the fight. Tell us about the fight.
The fight was tough. Alfredo Lane was a big puncher. That's how he knocked out Gomez. He was a rangy guy. Most guys were a bit taller than me as well, but I didn't mind that because I closed the gap and fought in my own range. Lane was banging me for 2-3 rounds. I was cut above both eyes after 3 rounds. After 5 rounds, I was behind on points. And after 6 or 7 rounds, I saw his gum guard opening up. I used to watch the guys' mouths. I did that with Tony Lopez as well. And I used to watch when they're tiring. You know, I was quite good at psychoanalyzing an opponent. And obviously my bobbing and my weaving and my slipping and that was good. And I watched Alfredo Lane in the 6th and 7th round tiring. And I said to myself, now you put the pressure. Now you put everything on the line. And from round 7, I just punished him. And by round 10, I knocked him down 3 times to win the world title. It was a scheduled 15-rounder. And those days we still fought 15-rounders. And then after I beat him, I fought 3 or 4 15-rounders before they changed it back to 12. But the sad thing is that 3 weeks after I'd beaten him, the World Boxing Associations were stripping me of the title because I was a South African. So they said, well, the fight happened, we don't know how it happened, but Mitchell can't stay champion because he's a South African. So I took the WBA to court. So here's a little 25-year-old with no money taking the World Boxing Association, which I'm their champion, to court, and I won the court case, which was wonderful. The greatest consolation prize one can ever have. They said, fine, you can stay world champion. You've taken it to court, you're right, you won the fight fair and square, you knocked the champion out, but no world title fights in Bophuthatswana, which was Sun City, and no world title fights in South Africa.
So that's why you became the Road Warrior.
That's when the international media called me the Road Warrior. I went to Puerto Rico, I went to Panama, I went to France, I went to Spain, I went to Italy 5 times, that I drilled those Italians. And then I went to my happy hunting ground, Sacramento, to fight Tony Lopez and his mother and the whole Mexican family.
I'm going to talk about that later. I'm fascinated by what you say about the gum guard. That moment when you realize you've got it. Before then, though, you're getting pounded. What does it feel like to take a good shot in boxing?
It's tough, John, but it's not as hard as the people watching that have never been punched before, because we spend 4 hours a day training.
Yeah.
So I was as hard as a stable basically by the time I got in the ring. I was 60 kilograms. I had to take off about 10 kilos for every fight, and we train 4 hours a day. So you can take punishment. You know,
but I mean that big, when I see that punch in slow motion and I see the jaw going and obviously the brain has been rattled, etc. Well, what does it feel like when you get a shot that really, really hurts?
Well, I'll tell you the 2 biggest shots I ever got was against Joe Rivera, the #1 contender that I fought. Joe, I'd never been knocked down ever. Not in a street fight, not that I had many street fights, but
liar.
But at Jeppy Boys I sorted a couple of oaks because I was the shortest in the class and they didn't know I could fight. And Joe Rivera knocked me off my feet in a world title fight in Puerto Rico, and it's a crazy feeling. You just go lights out. It's just blank, and you go down and you get up and you're in a trance and you're thinking, what's going on here? And I realized I'm the world champion. I've got to keep it going. But if you're very fit, which obviously fitness was my secret, you recover quickly. So it's all about recovery.
So as the ref is counting, 1, to, do you
You're
feel
busy
yourself
recover-
coming back?
Yeah, you're recovering.
Yeah.
Well, you're trying to recover. So that's the big thing. As the ref's counting, you got to recover. You got to get back quick. You got 8 seconds to recover.
But is there ever a moment where you say, I can remember in rugby matches, and I was a hell of a competitive rugby guy, and you're knackered and you're sore and the game is and you think, is it worth it? You know, and you either come back or you don't because the team pulls you around. Is there ever a moment where you say, God, I just want to stay down?
Well, then the second Joe Rivera fight, funny enough. So now he was the number 1 contender. So every 9 months we had to fight the number 1, which makes it very competitive. In between the 9 months, you can choose somebody in the top 10. It's got to be in the top 10. So you try and choose an easy opponent, but there is no easy opponents. But now Joe Rivera was the tough one. So now I was hoping after our first fight in Puerto Rico, he's never going to be the number 1 contender again. I don't want to fight this guy again. 9 months later, guess who's, there's Joe Rivera, you've got to fight him. So we took him out of Puerto Rico and we took him to Spain. Doesn't really matter, you're fighting the same tough guy. But I fought him in Spain in the second fight, and I was waiting for the right hand that he knocked me down with in the first fight. He knocked me down right through my gloves. I had my hands up. I'm waiting for the right hand, he hits me, attacks me with a left hook, right off my feet. I was off my feet in the second fight. And that moment I thought, this is it. This is the end of, you've had a great career, it's over.
Yeah.
I got up and I was dizzy. And fortunately, the bell went. So it was kind of...
So you were saved by the bell?
You can call it saved by the bell. I might have still made it anyway, but it was nice that the bell went. So then I got that minute rest, and Carlos Giacomo threw me with a bucket of water over my head. And where I was very good, I was determined so that when I went out the next round, I knew Joe Rivera was going to try and take my head off. So he was swinging from everywhere, and that suited me. So I just moved and I bobbed and I weaved, and I put him under pressure. I went to knock him out in the 4th round after he'd knocked me down. So that threw his mind out completely. He couldn't understand. He had me down and I'm trying to knock him out. And then I just changed the whole concept of the fight. Like you and I spoke about Roger Federer off air.
Yes, how he changed,
You know, if you're fit enough and you're mentally strong enough, you can change your game plan. And I had that.
Was that your toughest fight then, coming back from that and then winning? Would you look on that and say, forget the fact that, winning the title against Lane, beating Lopez and so on.
Yes.
If you look back inside yourself, was that your greatest achievement, not getting knocked out?
That was my greatest achievement, not getting knocked out by Joe Rivera in that second fight. And then, of course, Tony Lopez, in my last...
Well, before you even start there, I want to know what it's like when you're robbed, because I watched that first fight. You horrible, beat the hell out of him, and it was a hometown decision. Were you expecting it? When the ref stands and says, let's go to the judges now, what were you expecting?
I'll tell you, it started for me early in my career. In my 6th professional fight, I was undefeated. So here's this young 19-year-old on a roll, and I'm going now. And I went to Kwatema to fight Jacob Maraki, the late Jacob Maraki.
Shame, yeah.
And that was our first fight. But I was the only little white guy in the township, and I didn't really expect to get a decision, but I was getting good money. And he was the Transvaal champion, and I was just the challenger. I thought I won the fight, but there was no television, there was no...
but every boxer thinks they won the
Every boxer
fight.
thinks they won, but he was a good fighter.
Yeah.
So I may have lost that fight, fair and square. But then I won the SA title, and I beat him 3 times after that. But I got a draw one day I used to go into the townships a lot.
I know.
And the black promoters in the townships loved me because I was the only guy prepared to go in there and fight the best guys. And I never ever fought a white guy ever as a professional in South Africa. The white guys weren't good enough in our division. So I was fighting all the best guys in the townships. I fought Frank Konkobi one day over 6 rounds, and I thought I won every round because I felt in control of what I was doing in the ring. And they made it a draw. And I put my head through the ropes and I said to the judges, are you guys blind? I got suspended for 3 months for that. But to answer your question, it's horrible to get a bad decision in boxing. Even today as a commentator, and then I go around the world from East London, I go to Monte Carlo and East London, Durban and wherever to commentate. And I see bad decisions and it riles me, it grates me,
But tell us...
It's a tough sport. It's a one-on-one. The best man must win.
Exactly. But Lopez that time, what happened after? Because that was daylight robbery.
Yes, absolutely. Well, when I got to fight Tony Lopez, it was at the end of my career. I was turning 30. I had 11 defenses of the WBA. Lopez had beaten 5 world champions. He'd beaten Jorge Paez, John Molina.
Oh, there was a good fighter.
Beaten Rocky Lockridge, who was great.
Yeah.
So Lopez was proper. He was the favourite again to beat me.
It was the only fight I thought you were going to lose. When I watched it, I was your biggest fan.
A lot of people did.
Yeah.
Well, he had fought better quality opposition. So on paper, actually, you would say Tony Lopez is going to win the fight. But I went in once again. It was my last world title fight that I wanted to compete in, and I put everything on the line. I put everything, my heart, soul, body on the line, and I thought I'd won. And the whole of South Africa saw it live, which was nice, because those years that they were selling decoders to watch Brian Mitchell fights, and people were cramming into other people's houses just to watch it. And I knew my country and my people were behind me, and they saw that I got robbed, and people were fuming. And Rodney Berman, being my Jewish promoter, he came to me in the ring and he says to me, "Don't worry about it. We got a big rematch for big money." No. I won the fight. I'm the unified champion. He says, "Relax. We got a rematch." I said, "No, I don't care about the." Meantime, he was talking about financially.
Yeah, of course.
So the nice thing is, I got a good payday to go back 6 months later to fight Lopez again, and that really was the cherry on the cake for me, because it was my last world title fight I ever competed in.
After a fight, I mean, even today, after a rugby match is professional, you have a drink with the opposition. You do have a drink, you chat, you get to know. Well, do you meet the fighter afterwards?
Well,
do you have a drink with the guy?
Talking about, from a drinking point of view, I never touched alcohol for 15 years of my professional career. Nothing.
When I mean a drink, I mean, do you socialise?
You socialise with him. Well, yes, you do, John, but the thing is, they live in other countries.
Yeah.
So, no, Lopez and myself, after our first fight, nearly had a street fight afterwards.
Tell us about that.
On the stage, I didn't know it was his mom, and I don't disrespect people, but we were both talking. I said I thought I'd won the fight fair and square, and Lopez said no, he thought he'd won. This woman started chirping me, what do you know about boxing? I mean, that was Lopez's mother.
Yeah.
And I said, lady, what do you know about boxing? So Lopez says, don't get clever with my mother. So now we've just had a world title fight. Now we're nearly hitting each other outside the ring. So, I've had big stories, but a lot of the guys, like Brett Taylor, who I fought as an amateur and actually beat me, a great friend of mine who now lives in Auckland, New Zealand. We stay in touch a lot.
But I mean, your opponents, I know Alfredo Lane got shot, which was terrible, didn't he?
Alfredo Lane became a gangster in Panama, got shot. That's the guy I won the world title from.
Yeah.
Chris Whitewater, that I won the South African title from, became a gangster in Cape Town, got shot.
Yeah.
So, geez, I've got to stay away from gangsters.
Tell us about the fitness. I mean, I know boxers are legendary fit, but there must have been times where you weren't 100%. You went into a fight. I know you were legendary with your preparation. Yeah. What is the difference when you haven't quite done the road work? Maybe you've been injured, you haven't done the sparring, etc. I mean, it's like everyone thinks rugby players or soccer players are 100%. They're carrying injuries often they've been out. Tell us about that aspect of boxing.
Injuries is a big problem. I suffered with cuts and that. And it's,
always,
and sometimes, so you get a world title fight in 2 months' time, and they've got a specific date on HBO or wherever it is, and you've got to go with that date, and you need the money. So, but your cut hasn't healed properly. So you go in there sometimes with weak eye. I've been to fights where my hands were sore. In fact, I broke my hand against Daniel Londas in France. I hit him on top of the head in the 3rd round, and I broke my hand. But you don't know your hand's broken, and you can't quit. If you quit with a broken hand, you lose. Yeah. So that's how tough the sport is. It's not like I can fight him in 2 months' time because my hand's broken. If you quit, you quit. And then I carried on fighting this 15-round fight against Daniel Londas. In the 12th round, I hit him down again on top of the head. And I said to Carl Chackham, my hand's gone, because I'd broken his hand. But you still can't even take the glove off. I had 3 rounds left. So I fought him with one hand for 3 rounds, and it was very painful. And you try and disguise that, because obviously if he knows you've got one hand gone. You try and disguise it. I mean, you're fighting with a broken hand and you've got no option. When I was a youngster as a tool and die maker, I nearly cut my thumb off one down a lathe, and I had a fight the next Saturday, and I just taped it up so the doctors didn't see this big cut. I was fighting for 300 Rand at the YMCA, and I fought with my thumb almost cut. How dirty is boxing? I mean, I know we see, Tyson biting ears and stuff, the obvious one. But when you're in there, how much head goes, how much elbows go? How dirty is it? Well, it's not that dirty, John, but, there's tricks of the trade, like it is in any sport. Like what? Thumb in the eye? Well, you can't really... We can't do now with the modern gloves, because of the gloves. But like Jacob Marocchi was a clever fighter. He was about half a head taller than me. So he would watch the referee. If the referee came on the blind side, he would jab me and then hit me with the elbow because he knew I cut easily.
Yeah.
So that was a clever trick of his.
What were your tricks?
Well, my dad taught me when I was about 12 years old, although I didn't live with my dad. My dad taught me how to hit with the head. And my dad said, so when you come inside, being a shorter guy as well, my dad was South African bantamweight champion in 1962. He says, you hit the guy with the head and then you hit him with the right hand. But don't let the referee see. So,
did you ever use that in any of the big fights?
But I was never a dirty fighter.
No,
I was a busy fighter, so I was hitting the guys from all angles. And I didn't have to be dirty. I was just so busy that the guys couldn't see me.
Another question. At the break between rounds, you listen to the coaches and they seem to talk the greatest load of rubbish. And the boxers, jab, hit him with a jab, you're doing well. And the boxers are there thinking, I'm out on my feet. Do you listen? What tell us in between the rounds? What happens?
Well, you should, John. And if you watch boxing, too many trainers are trying to steal the show.
Yeah.
So they're
putting on a performance.
They're putting on a performance. They're throwing more punches than their fighters throw.
Yeah.
And the guy's just sitting there thinking, just give me water, please.
Yeah.
So Harold Fulbright and myself had a great relationship. And he's like a brother to me. We grew up in Trooiwolf. He was my senior at Ellis Park Boxing Club from when I was 9 years old. And then he became my sparring partner, and then he became my trainer. And we really go back 50 years.
Good fighter as well, yeah.
Great South African welterweight champion. But now, so we had this relationship. Don't even talk to me a lot. Just give me one or two things.
Yeah.
Say the body punches are working, for example, against Lopez or whatever it is, the jab's working, and give me water and Vaseline. And that's what we did. There's no jumping around, shouting and screaming. And it is. A lot of these trainers are just clowns. They're jumping around and the fighter's just looking at them. So I think trainers should say less, say the important stuff, and let them. So when the guy's sitting there, you only got a minute.
Yeah.
Between taking the chair in and out, you got about 40 seconds to get water, Vaseline, get rubbed down, and get advice. So you can't tell a person much in 40 seconds. Just give them the important stuff.
A tough one. You've killed a man in the ring. Does that still stay with you?
Yes, very much so. I went to visit Jacob Marocchi's mother about 2 weeks ago. I'll tell you more about that now, which was wonderful. 34 years ago, Jacob Marocchi and I fought at Sun City. It was our fourth fight. He's the only guy in my career, hopefully they do a movie one day in my life story, he will be the main feature of my whole career. Because he's the only guy to ever beat me. He's the only guy that obviously died in the ring. And he's the only guy that I ever fought 4 times. And the reason I fought him so many times is because we were the 2 best in the country. I was saying to Russell McMillan from Sun International when we had the 4th fight, why am I fighting Marocchi again? Why am I fighting International? He said, well, we're putting on all South African title fights. And he's the best opponent for me. And then unfortunately, and it was the 12th round, John, that's the mad thing. I fought him over 10 rounds when he was Transvaal champ. Then I beat him over 12. Then I beat him over 12. Then the 4th fight, in the 12th and final round, is when I knocked him out. And
what happened?
I knocked him out and he
But tell us how you knocked him out. What happened?
Well, I hit him with the overhand right and his neck whiplashed on the bottom. He was out on the way down. And when he fell, the bottom rope caught the back of his neck and his head whiplashed.
Yeah.
And he died from bleeding on the brain that night.
Should the fight have been stopped beforehand?
I think so, but we're all clever in hindsight. His corner obviously said to him, it's one more round. I think you could see by the 11th round, I even talk about it in my play, he was sitting on the stool, you can see him shaking his head, he's had enough. So he could have quit, his corner should have stopped it actually, the referee could have stopped it, but we're all clever in hindsight, so...
But what I find...
It was a sad time for me, I was 24 years old.
No, exactly, but what I find amazing is, despite the fact here's a guy whose life is in danger, for you it's a moment of triumph. You've got to hit him again, etc. Is that even cross your mind as a fighter that you've got death in your fists? Yeah,
but you see, you don't look at it like that in the sport, John, because then it's look how many rugby players die because a guy will jump on the head. Look at motor car racing. You're not racing to kill somebody. You're not boxing to kill somebody. A knockout is a bonus. That's what people want to see. You don't get paid overtime. But that's not what you want. Jacob Marocchi was actually my friend at that time. We had won Best Fight of the Year at the King Korn Boxing Awards. And we'd fought 4 times. And he was going to help me as a sparring partner when I got the world title fight. And sadly, a year after he passed away, I got the world title fight. And I dedicated the fight to
I
him.
remember. And his family have never held anything against you.
Oh, his mother's wonderful. His mother's now 92 years old.
Wow.
I went to see her 2 weeks ago in Soweto. I went to visit her, and myself and my son videoed it, and
Lovely.
we took her some money and some flowers and some presents, and she's just great. You know, she says her son died doing what he loved, and I would have felt the same way. If it was the other way around, I would have wanted him to go and to be a world champion.
Would you wanted any of your kids to box? Did they box?
My two sons have both got professional boxing licenses, but they can't find the gym. They've realized it's too tough, and they've both said to me, they both tried. They've done professional boxing as training.
Yeah.
And they both said, no, Dad, it's not for us. It's too tough.
Where do you become a great boxer? Because I remember talking to Ray Mort, who's one of the hardest men I've ever met in my life.
Yeah,
I love Ray to
good
bits.
guy, yeah.
And Ray said, don't even talk about rugby union, whatever, the boxers. And he's a great boxing
Yeah,
fan.
he loves
And he
boxing.
said, boxers are so much tougher than any other sportsman in the world. And I believe it as well. I know you had a difficult upbringing. And you said you had a bit of street fighting. What was it made you? What were the elements that made you into a champ?
Yeah, I think, there's three words there. There's dedication to start with. You've got to commit yourself 100%. There's that determination. And there's that willpower, there's that...
But where does that come from? Do you think it was because you were the little guy who was always proving himself?
You know what? I needed money, John. So money was a big driving factor. When I was 17, I went to the army. I was in the army for 2 years as an MP. And I came out the army at the age of 19. My mom had moved with her new husband, who she'd been married to for 38 years, to Durban. And I was alone in Joburg, and I had nothing. Nothing. I had 500 rand that I saved up in the army, which I sent to my mom in Durban, because my mom was battling. I needed to fight. My first pro fight, I got 100 rand. My first 4 pro fights, I got 100 rand each. And that 100 rand was so important. Well, I got 75 rand. Because I had to give Willie Tawil 25 rand as well. And obviously this is in 1981.
Yeah.
And that 75 rand, I bought a car with that 75 rand.
Yeah.
And I paid rent, and I bought...
So you couldn't afford to lose?
I couldn't afford to lose. I needed boxing.
Did you get anything if you lost?
I needed to make it in life, and I didn't want to be a tool and die maker.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to make it as a tradesman. I wasn't going to make it as a lawyer. I don't have an education. I've got a standard 8. So sport was all I knew. Boxing was the only way I was going to make it in life. So I put my whole life and soul into boxing as a 19-year-old.
Looking back, what would you have done differently? I look at Floyd Mayweather, who I don't particularly like as a person, So, I know it's a lot of show.
A great businessman.
But what I'm going to say, he was, promoting himself, hundreds of millions, etc. I imagine 90% of boxers must look back, successful ones, and say, I wish I'd done that. I know you did at the end, but tell us about that side of things.
I think what I would have done differently, because I wasn't allowed to fight in my own country, I would have based myself in the UK or in America, actually probably in America, because that's where boxing has been. And I would have become a star of whatever town I lived in, and become a draw card. So what I did is I earned good money as a fighter, but I had to go to every opponent's backyard. I could never become a draw card anyway, because I was always the underdog, and I was always in my opponent's backyard. So I would have probably emigrated to the States and try to make it big in boxing, because America is the boxing world. Because of sanctions and apartheid. And if South Africa was different, obviously I would have loved to have fought at Ellis Park and Loftus Versfeld.
Do you have any say in the money of a fight as a boxer?
You negotiate with your manager and trainer, and you do have a say. Yeah,
but I remember you telling me once, Carlos Giacomo flew to a fight business class and you flew economy.
Economy, yeah.
And you were the fighter. I find that unbelievable.
Well, the Carlos Giacomo story, and he died a few years ago. I never spoke to him for many years, and I'll tell you why. And then he picked up cancer and he invited me to his house for a braai, and I'm glad that I went. I'm that kind of person. And he died a few weeks later, so we made up. But what he did, it was conflict of interest. Carlos Giacomo was my manager and trainer, and he became a promoter. So he made friends with the Italians. And he said to them, I've got the world champion, I'll bring the world champion over, you can have the gate, and we take the rest. So he would negotiate with Supersport, he would negotiate with Nasher, whoever the sponsor was. There would be, let's say, $400,000 in the pot. He would come to me and say, champ, we're going to give you $160,000. I'm like, okay, Carlos, I just wanted to stay busy. But he got 25% of my 160.
as well as what he was making on the other side.
Obviously, he had to pay the undercard and all that, and pay for the whole tournament. But the moral of the story is he was making more money than me as the world champion. And that went on for a few years until I found out. Then I moved over.
How did you find out?
Through some sources. Rodney Berman became my promoter, obviously, then. And some friends of Rodney's that came to me and said, listen, you're getting done over. And they explained the whole thing to me. And I was such a loyal guy. I still said, okay, well then, can Carlos Giacomo still train me? And you guys promote me? And I said, no, this is the guy you got to get rid of. And then I joined Rodney Berman for my last 7 world title fights, and that was the greatest thing I could have ever done.
I'm a great Rodney mate, and yet a lot of people, because of the nature of the job, you just almost don't trust him, wheeler, dealer, etc.
Yeah.
You've always got on well?
Yeah, awesome. Now he's like a father figure to me today, and he helped me, and it actually worked well for me then. So I was 27 years old. So I broke away from Carlos Giacomo, and I sat in this meeting now with Berman and all these big attorneys, and I'm this little 27-year-old that's uneducated, and Berman says to me, what did you get for your last fight? So, like when you go into a business, if you're looking for a job, you say more. I said, well, I got $200,000. Meantime, I got like 160. He says, no, you didn't. He said, you got about 150, 160. I'm thinking, how does this guy know everything? He says, but that's fine. I'll give you a 3-fight contract, 300, 350, 400. I'm thinking, just pass the pen. Can I think about it? Pass the pen. And that's when I joined the great Golden Gloves and Rodney Berman, and Harold Volbrecht was my trainer for my last 7 world title fights. And we had I still work for Rodney Berman today as his spokesperson, and obviously.
And boxing today, I mean, I see some of the guys coming through are terrific. I mean, this Thelani Mbenge, is that right?
Yeah, he's great.
I mean, a good fighter. We've seen Heki fighting, and I mean, Kevin Lorena. How good is he?
Well, Kevin's good in a weak era.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. It seems to me the era is not particularly strong at the moment in South Africa, and I don't mean that as a disrespect to him.
Kevin's a work in progress. He trains very hard, and he's kind of. I mean, Kevin was a jockey. Believe it.
Don't believe you.
Yeah, and his cousins are jockeys. Gavin Lorena and all these great jockeys. So Kevin was a small guy, and then he started growing, and then he went into rugby, and so he's quite a talented guy. I mean, to play rugby, jockey, boxer now. And he's a work in progress.
How old is he now?
I think he's about 26.
Oh, so he's coming into his prime, eh?
Yeah, and he's the reason he wins fight is not natural talent, hard work.
Yeah.
And it shows you that hard work pays off.
And in terms
hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah, I like that. In terms of I mean, we seem to have so much potential here. And yet we don't seem to be coming through in the world title fights, the real ones, the big issue. The organization of boxing, and I don't want to get you into any trouble here and so on. Does it need better organization?
You know what? It starts from the grassroots. Our amateur system is a problem.
How so?
We don't have enough gyms. The government and the private sector don't help boxing. Nobody cares. There's not enough boxing gyms.
But why is that when areas, people love boxing?
Big Afrikaans kids, even that don't want to play rugby, for example.
Yeah.
We need them, the heavyweights that would want to box. There's no boxing gyms. There's no facilities.
Yeah.
And so it starts there. So if we've got no amateurs, we're never going to have any good pros. So that's why our boxing's gone backwards. But it's a worldwide thing as well. I mean, you get the great Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao and the odd guys, Triple G Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez. But generally, it's not like it used to be. Because if you remember the 80s, and I'm not saying so because I'm an 80s boy, you had Hagler, Hearns, Duran, Leonard, you had superstars.
Yeah, you're right. There was a conveyor belt to them, eh?
In the 70s, you had Ali, Foreman, Norton, Fraser. You don't have those big personalities in world boxing anymore. So it's not just South Africa.
Did you go? I mean, you went off the rails a little bit with the fame and everything. Tell us about that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not blaming you because people forget what a hero you were.
Thanks, John. Yeah, when I retired from boxing at the age of 34, which is I was drunk every day.
Yeah.
And I was just living a different life. Got divorced twice. And
drugs? Were you involved in drugs?
I did a bit of drugs, which I'm not proud of here.
Yeah. But it's important to say. James Small said the same,
yes.
It's important to say.
No, but I was never involved in drugs in a big way, but I have done it, and I'm not proud of it. But alcohol became a problem, and I was just drinking every day, and then I realized this is not life,
Yeah.
I'm still a ex-sportsman, and I'm Brian Mitchell, And then I cleaned my act up. I got together with Supersport as a commentator and with Berman. And
how did that happen? I mean, was there a moment where you said, Brian, you know, like when you're on the canvas,
yeah.
Was there a moment where you said, I've got to get off the canvas? Was it a gradual thing? Was it a spiritual thing? Was it to do with friends or whatever?
No,
What made you pull yourself together?
You got to look in the mirror, John. At the end of the day, when you wake up in the morning, there's only one person you've got to answer to. You look in the mirror and you say, listen, you're becoming a stuff up. You're stuffing your life up. You know?
Yeah.
People aren't going to use you for guest speaking and motivational speaking and put you in a pantomime or a play or anything. And Supersport's not going to use you if you're drinking every day.
Yeah.
So I just got myself together. You know, I still drink with the boys and have a couple of beers.
Yeah.
But it's not like, it doesn't run my life now. And at 34 years old, I was off the rails. Yeah.
Yeah. And in terms of the money side of things, because obviously divorces, obviously going off the rails, etc.
It's an expensive hobby.
Yeah, expensive hobby. Managing your money, would you do it differently now looking back? What would you've got I mean, presumably Charles Giacomo, those people, who looked after your money? How was that dealt with?
Yeah,
without getting too personal.
Rodney Berman, being a lawyer, when I got to that stage of my career, advised me a lot.
Yeah.
I invested overseas and I invested a lot in property. But, you know, in hindsight, I would have kept more properties. You know, today I've got a very beautiful home that I live in Personia. But I had 20 properties around the world and I've sold them all, you know.
You're kidding.
And
how rich were you?
I was at about 20 million in the bank at one time.
Gee,
and I had 20 properties around the world. But today, if you gave me those 20 properties, I wouldn't be able to afford the levies and the maintenance. So it's expensive to maintain properties as well.
Yeah.
But what I did wrong is, because I had fancy houses I had a flat in London and I had a house in Cape Town. But the thing is, when you need money, the first thing you do is you sell it. If you need half a bar, you've got to sell your property. You can't eat the bricks and the cement, you know. But I would have taken bonds probably. I would have got people to help me manage my money.
Yeah, to advise the money,
which I didn't do. I thought it was
what would you say to a youngster? I mean, that young kid there who's got an anger, he's got a talent, he loves boxing, he's in there, he sees the Golovkins, he sees the top guys, you know, who are up there. What would you say to him? I mean, what are the words of advice you'd give to that kid and to his parents?
Well, the words of advice would be, get somebody to help you look after your money when you start making money. And the biggest thing of success to make it is it's what you want out of life. It's what you put into it. I mean, you can go for a 5K run this morning and run at 10 minutes a K. It means nothing. You're cheating yourself. When you go out there, work hard to make it happen. If you want to be the best, you can be the best. We've proved it with the Gary players and the Brian Mitchells and the Francois Pinas and whoever. You know, we've been up there as number one in the world. Hard work. It's what you want in life you can achieve, but it's all hard work.
And what about the future for Brian Mitchell now? The content Brian Mitchell. Tell us what ambitions you still have.
At 57, it's still happening for me, John. I was negotiating the other day with Sun International to maybe take my play going forward, the one-man play. So is
your play available? If somebody wanted you to put that on and promote that, etc.,
yes,
it's available.
Yes,
okay,
right? It's available, yeah.
Because we'll put up the details on the website.
Tim Plumman and myself, we've done the play. So you know, I was on stage three nights in a row at Empress Palace last year. And it was, the media loved it. There wasn't one bad word said about anybody. It's very hard work. But it's, you know, the other things I do, I'm a motivational speaker and a guest speaker at golf days.
Yes.
Golf days is my big business because I sell memorabilia.
Fantastic.
With, in a big frames with myself and Mike Tyson or myself and Mandela. You know, I've met all the superstars.
Yeah.
And I put that into frames and I help charities. So I've raised, the funny thing, and I can mention it now, is I've raised millions for charities in the last couple of years, but that never makes the paper.
Yeah,
but if I had to go outside now and hit somebody, that'll be on the front page of the paper. not that I'm going to do that. You know, I'm just saying that it's funny how bad news makes the papers and the good news doesn't. So, not looking for points, but I've raised millions for charities and I still do. And that's how I make a living myself.
Fantastic. Brian, you've had a hell of a life so far. I suspect it's not the last we've heard from you, and thank you for chatting to us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Wow, what memories and honesty from the champ Brian Mitchell. Thanks for listening to the first episode of Season 3. Follow us on social media for updates and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. As usual, thanks to Slow in the City for hosting us. See you next time. Cheers from John Robbie.